Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I declare the meeting open and welcome you to the March meeting of Council. The recording of this Council meeting will be available to the public on Council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. In accordance with Council policy, I will now ask Council staff to confirm that the recording has commenced.
Yes, it has, ma'am.
Thank you. So now I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on the land of the Malakadi people, the traditional custodians of this land. We pay respect to them and their customs, to their elders, past, present and emerging. So now I'd like to introduce our councillors. So to my right I have Councillor Newell, and then I have Councillor Campbell, I have Councillor Gibson and Councillor Prince, and to my left I have Councillor O'May, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Lovell. Would you like to introduce your officers, please?
Thank you, Mayor. In the chamber tonight we have Director of Legal and Governance, Matthew Grimsey, Director of Environment Development, Luke Chu, Director of Corporate Services, David Spinks, Director of Community Services, Rebecca Stevenson, Acting Director of Infrastructure Services, Sue McCarter, and support staff we have Sandy Rustell and Michael Glazer.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any apologies? Nope. Leave of absence?
Mayor, we do have one that we were going to deal with under legislative matters.
Thank you. Yep. No absent. Any declarations of interest? No. Councillors, is there any... Oh, yeah, I've already done that. Yep, sorry. The following declarations of interest, we don't have to do that. On to the next one. Confirmation of minutes. I need someone to move the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 24th of February 2021. A seconder, please. So that's Councillor Wilson.
Yes.
And Councillor Prince. Then I don't have to do any more with that. Yep. Okay. So I'd like to move a motion that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council on the Wednesday the 24th of February as circulated be confirmed. So I now put the motion forward, is that right?
Yep.
Yep. All those in favour? That's all?
Yep.
In favour?
That's carried.
Yep, that's carried. General Manager, are there any legislative items?
Yes, Mayor, I do have one legislative item, and it's actually the appointment of the acting Mayor, being yourself, and this is from the Mayor. I, Beck Enders, Mayor of the Huon Valley Council, give notice that I will be absent from the position of Mayor from 8 a.m. Friday 26th of March 2021 to 8 a.m. Wednesday 5th of May 2021. In addition to the appointment made 29 March 2021 for the period 8 a.m. Friday 26th of March 2021 to 8 a.m. Wednesday 7th of April 2021, and in accordance with Section 27 of the Local Government Act, I extend the appointment of Deputy Mayor Sally Doyle to act in the position of Mayor during the period of my absence to 8 a.m. Wednesday the 5th of May 2021.
General Manager, is there any urgent matters?
No, Mayor.
Before I ask the councillors, I believe the General Manager has an announcement, so we'll start with the first.
Thank you, Mayor. Many of you would know that tonight marks my last council meeting as General Manager of the Huon Valley Council. 4 years ago, the Huon Valley Council family made it easy for me to feel at home here. It's a workplace that is genuinely inclusive, and that's what made it a very difficult decision for me. I was appointed as General Manager in February 2017 by the then appointed Commissioner Adriana Taylor, and my time here has certainly been interesting, fulfilling and at times challenging. There have been a few tough times that we've all worked through together, and there's nothing like a disaster to bring people together. And just to name a few, we had the 2018 floods, the 2019 bushfires and the 2020 pandemic, and I think each of those were quite significant in their own way. I know from the feedback we've received from the community that they have been happy with the way their council has responded to these situations and the parts we've played and the lead that we've taken in the recovery process. This is not from good luck. This is from careful emergency management planning. The expertise that we have in our staff on emergency management, is the best in the state. I leave knowing that this council is much better shape than when it was when I first arrived. I'd like to think that my legacy is bringing unity and stability to this council. After the 2016 Board of Inquiry, the bringing together of a new council and restructuring the organisation to reflect the expectations of the community and establishing a new executive leadership team. We've come through stronger on the other side, and I can say with confidence that the Huon Valley Council is in an excellent position to continue to deliver quality services for the community and to support the social and economic well-being of the local people. I'd like to take this opportunity to say that the resignation of the Director of Infrastructure Services, Len Bester, is in no way related to my decision to leave Huon Valley Council. This was not sudden. Len was considering his options for some time, and Len has allowed me to mention that he made this decision for a number of personal reasons, including the health of his partner who needs supported home care for some time, and the fact that after a motorcycle accident, which Len admits was his own fault for racing motorcycles, Len's in need of a number of surgeries that will need some extended time to recover. Len decided he would resign to focus on these matters, but I can assure you we have a very, very capable person acting in that role now. It's been an honour to serve the Huon Valley community as the General Manager of this council. I've enjoyed and valued this time spent back here in the Huon Valley, working this beautiful part of the world. The future of the Huon Valley is bright, with so many positive initiative programs and collaborations happening locally to support ongoing economic growth and social connections. I extend my thanks to the council staff for your hard work, excellent efforts and ongoing dedication to the success of the Huon Valley. It's because of the staff that this council is strong and successful. This council truly does punch well above its weight because of the staff. I'd especially like to thank Sandy Rustell, my Executive Assistant, for putting up with me all this time. And truth be known, she probably runs the show most of the time. Your service and judgment has been impeccable. Thank you. I also thank the executive leadership team for your professional hard work, integrity, and going that extra mile. I thank you for your belief in me, your support, and your friendship. Need a drink. Sorry. I thought I was going to hold it together. Yep. None of us achieve in isolation, and the successes we've enjoyed together have been a result of our mutual cooperation and collaboration. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have worked alongside colleagues who understand how to bring the best out in each other. I also thank councillors for their commitment to the community. It's not an easy role to be a councillor, representing the views of the community whilst trying to balance the statutory requirements of local government and what we can deliver with the available resources we have. Being the tier of government that's closest to the people and understanding what the community wants, it's certainly a very hard balance to achieve. I'll miss my time here at the Huon Valley as General Manager, and will finally look back at my time here and what we managed to achieve together as a team. Thank you.
Thanks, Emilio. Okay, so now I will open it up to the councillors. Has anyone got an announcement? We'll go Michael, yes.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I've been around a little bit longer than most of you, so I've been an elected member here since 2001. That's nearly 20 years, so nearly time for me to retire, Christine, isn't it? I've had the privilege of working with 4 general managers over that period of time, and I can honestly say that the best one is about to leave us, and I sincerely mean that. The rest have been good. This one's been a little bit better than the rest, and I really appreciate the work that effectively, Emilio, you've put into the staff, this council and this community. You have a great reputation with your staff, with the community, and with your fellow councillors. And it's been a pleasure really to work with you. I know effectively that you have an enormous amount of respect, not only around this council table, but through local government throughout Tasmania. And that's come out very loud and very clear. On behalf of my fellow councillors around the table, I'd like to wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your friendship, your honesty, your dedication to the job, and I'd just like to ask all councillors to stand and show our appreciation for the work that he's done. Thank you, Emilio.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Thank you, everyone. It's the first time I've actually had a standing ovation. Thank you.
So do you want to speak?
Deputy Mayor, I think Councillor Wilson has pretty much encompassed most of the words that more so than I would have been able to choose myself. So congratulations, Emilio, in your future endeavours, and we're certainly going to miss you, and you're going to be hard to replace.
Everyone else is right? Okay. Oh.
Sorry, if I can, I've just got one little thing. Can I do that?
I'll let you off tonight.
You let me off tonight for that? Basically, I'd like to thank Matthew Grimsey over there, Michelle Gledhill and her team. I don't know whether you've all had the opportunity to look at the video that's been done.
Yeah.
And I think fair dinkum, that's probably one of the most professional jobs that I've seen about this sort of thing for a long time. So, Matt, if you could pass on to your staff and your team, it's an excellent bit of work. It really is. Well done.
Okay, well, all I will say is that you are correct, Emilio. We do punch above our weight. I hear that at every workshop or every weekend that I go to. I come away feeling very proud. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got public question time, public participation. Where questions can be answered, the question and answer will be recorded at tonight's meeting. Where questions cannot be answered, the question will be taken on notice and answered at the April Council meeting. Question time is limited to 15, but we'll let Emilio make that up because he's going to have a read tonight. Public questions were received up to 12 noon today, and all questions and answers have been uploaded to Council's meeting page for public viewing prior to the Council meeting starting. So do you feel right to go ahead, Emilio?
Yeah, no, I'm fine now. Thank you.
Okay.
First off, we've got answers to previous questions taken on notice, and these are from the annual general meeting. Question 1. This is a question from Peter Dufferin, Petches Bay. The question is, I'm concerned and appalled that some councillors have expressed doubt about the anthropogenic climate change. My question is to them, given the overwhelming science and acceptance of the dire consequences of continuing global heating as members of a government body, what will they say to their children and grandchildren when they ask why they did nothing? And the answer is, the Huon Valley Council has responded to the effects of climate change and is pleased to be able to announce that on the 24th of February 2021, Council endorsed a climate change strategy, Part A, Carbon Footprint Reduction Plan. This plan is available on Council's website and provides a comprehensive list of actions that Council will complete to help mitigate the effects of climate change. Work on Part B, the adaptation plan, is about to commence. The second question from the AGM is from Jeffrey Swan from Lonavale. Will you please elaborate on the strategic directives on page 2, this is of our annual report, with more detail as to how our council will build health and wellbeing, improve transport, create diverse educational opportunities and develop prosperity in our council? How can council achieve these objectives? And the answer is, Huon Valley Council developed a health and wellbeing strategy in 2018. The strategy, which can be found on the council's website, includes 10 action areas. These action areas link strongly to the strategic direction of the Huon Valley Council Strategic Plan and the Huon Valley Community Plan. Through working in partnership with the community services and groups, Council can work towards achieving the directions. A report is provided to Council on an annual basis outlining the work undertaken throughout the year and the priorities for the upcoming year. The most recent report was provided to Council in December 2020. The question that this has been uploaded on our website. It does actually include the 3 priorities and the 10 action areas, which I won't read, but they are available on the website if people would like to look at them, and more details on what we've achieved are actually in the December report. We move on to questions without notice. We received a question from Ray Metcalf Franklin. Another crash at the Southbridge Waste Transfer Station intersection at about 2:30 on Friday, 26th of March, demonstrates that moving the giveaway line marking recently in response to the fatality on 29th August 2020 was an inadequate measure to reduce the risk of a side impact collision, which at 80 kilometres an hour will probably prove fatal. Obstacles that obscure the line of sight for vehicles existing at the station could be rectified at low cost. What will Council do to prevent further loss of life? And the answer, the Huon Highway is a state highway managed under the jurisdiction of the Department of State Growth. However, Huon Valley Council requested a speed limit reduction along this section of the Huon Highway in August 2019. The main objective of the lower speed limit was to reduce the risk of crashes involving vehicles turning on or off the highway. The speed limit was reduced from 100 kilometres an hour to 80 kilometres an hour. Following the fatality on 29 August 2020, contact was made with State Growth from Council regarding the safety of the intersection. An audit was undertaken by their traffic engineers, and the response from the Department of State Growth is as follows. There is a safety barrier on the eastern side of the highway to the north of the existing waste transfer station junction to protect a steep drop-off at the edge of the highway. For motorists looking north from the access, the safety barrier momentarily obscures the bottom right quadrant of approaching cars when they are around 60 metres from the junction. However, the upper portion of approaching cars remain visible throughout. Even though this arrangement satisfies the requirements set out in Australian road design standards and to make it easier for motorists to see past their safety barrier on the northern side, arrangements were made for the giveaway markings to be moved forward by 1 metre. Council has also submitted an application to the Department of State Growth Black Spot Funding Program in August 2020 to relocate the access to a safer location. We're yet to receive notification on the outcome of this application, but I believe an announcement is imminent. Another question without notice. This is from Dr. Liz Smith, Signet, regarding settlement planning. A motion passed at the AGM on March 10 requests a report on residential demand and capacity for the settlements in the Huon Valley, I quote, in order to more accurately assess and provide for the essential infrastructure needed to meet the increasing demands of a rapidly growing population, unquote, with the last point being also, quote, reporting the number of new dwellings that reached occupancy in rural areas of the valley over the 3 years to 2020, unquote. In paragraph 35 of agenda number 15.009/21, the response is, and quote, with respect to reporting new dwellings in rural areas, it is not clear how that relates to anything within the motion. Any town plan would need to consider the population area it serves to be effective. Any individual report on these matters serves no purpose to the council in any decision making, unquote. Question 1. What have the actual population growth figures for the Huon Valley been in the past 5 years? And are baseline studies for all settlements such as the SGS Economics and Planning Report on Signet considered to be required prior to developing a new vision, a community plan, a strategic plan as proposed for the Huon Valley? And the answer, population growth statistics for the Huon Valley is publicly available from the Australian Bureau of Statistics or through the State Growth Tasmania Profile Portal. For the Huon Valley for the 5 years to 2019, the population figures are as follows. 2015, there were 16,361. 2016, 16,563. 2017, 16,875. 2018, 17,221. In 2019, 17,561. Baseline studies for all settlements may not be considered prior to developing a new vision and strategic plan. However, a number of baseline statistics relating to each settlement will be identified and provided as part of the information available to the community in preparing for the community vision. Question 2, how will Council determine the increases in population in the rural areas that settlement serves so that appropriate infrastructure can be provided in those centres? And the answer is by use of data available from the ABS and through the State Growth Tasmania profile portal. Another question, this one's from Jeffrey Swan, Lonavale. 2 weeks ago, I wrote to all councillors asking and urging Council to hold future ordinary meetings of Council in the Town Hall, given the apparent success of the recent annual general meeting. This move will allow the return of a gallery of ratepayers and members of our community. Will the Acting Mayor please advise why there has been no response to this request, and will you please explain why this meeting is not being held in our Town Hall and what is preventing future meetings in our Town Hall? The answer, a response to this request was provided by the Mayor prior to the annual general meeting. In addition, a number of questions regarding the holding of ordinary meetings outside the Council chambers have already been asked and answered at previous Council meetings, and I refer you to previous minutes for those answers. The holding of the AGM was a one-off event with extra cost involved that did not provide for the access currently available in the Council chambers through live streaming. Question 2, on page 4 of the HVC annual report, Mayor Enders states in her written statement, quote, out of respect for those in our community facing financial hardship, councillors declined an annual increase for their 2021 allowance, unquote. In the HVC financial reports tabled at this evening's meeting, it clearly indicates that Mayor Enders, along with Councillors Campbell, Newell, O'May, Prince and Wilson, all accepted the annual allowance increase. Why has our Mayor published this information in the annual report when the financial statements contradict this? The answer is, as this is a matter for Mayor Enders to respond, it will be taken on notice and forwarded to her for a direct response. Another question from Howard Wilcoxon on behalf of the Signet Association Incorporated. The report to Council on the motion put at the AGM by the Signet Association requesting that Council advance the new street project to shovel-ready status to make it more eligible for grant funding states that the only key risk associated with the motion is that in making a commitment to the Signet project specifically as a result of the motion may be seen as may be seen to be ad hoc decision making which does not take into account the priorities and other projects of the Council. Our response to this, the project was first proposed in 1997. It was a principal feature in the 2004 Signet Township Development Plan. More than a decade ago, in 2009, it was endorsed by Council, and we've been told that it has been accorded priority status by the current Council. The population of Signet has increased significantly in the meantime, and a recent Council commissioned report indicates that it is forecast to increase even more rapidly into the future, making the already congested Main Street even more dangerous. So the question, given the history of this project and the fact that it's been endorsed by Council more than a decade ago, do you, as councillors, really consider that it would be an ad hoc decision making to decide to progress this project to shovel-ready status? And the answer is, this has simply been raised as a potential risk as to how the motion may be seen if a decision was made simply in response to the motion and nothing more. The report goes on to say that the motion is considered in the context of the priority projects discussed it says previous report, but the priority projects are coming before the report on the notice of motions that are at the AGM. The attachment to that report describes the project and states the strategic basis for it, so the risk of it being seen as an ad hoc decision is clearly addressed. Another question from Howard Wilcoxon on behalf of Signet Association. In agenda item 17.007/21, page 40, it is recommended that the Council request the Minister of Planning to amend the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy by adding to Table 3 a footnote reading, and I quote, For the Cygnet Township, the growth strategy does not preclude residential growth through rezoning of existing urban land within the established settlement boundaries if supported by residential land supply and demand data analysis from a suitably qualified person, unquote. On page 15 of the agenda, it's stated that economic development, and I quote, has scoped out work for a population growth strategy. It became apparent that the work is much broader than simply growth. Rather, it is what is required to support the needs of the entire community into the future. This work cannot feasibly be commenced until the council has knowledge of what the community wants the Huon Valley to look like in the future, unquote. Despite this, there has been no community consultation whatsoever about the proposed amendment to the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy. We respectfully remind councillors that this recommendation is based on data that has not been collected for any other township in the municipality, and this therefore could fairly be described as ad hoc planning. So the question, do you not as councillors consider it necessary to undertake community consultation before voting to amend a land use strategy that could impact significantly on a township's future character? And the answer, the proposed amendment to the regional land use strategy is evidence-based planning relating to the Cygnet Township. As is detailed within the report, failing to make the proposed amendment to the strategy will result in out-of-date and inaccurate data being relied upon for planning decisions. Subsequently, this places risk of urban sprawl and fragmentation of agricultural land due to an inability to provide sufficient residential land with the Cygnet Township urban growth boundaries. It is also noted that the proposed amendment to the strategy is only requesting that current residential land supply and demand data and analysis from a suitably qualified person be able to be considered for rezoning applications within the urban growth boundaries of Cygnet, rather than relying on the out-of-date supply and demand data that is currently within the strategy. It is well accepted and clearly demonstrated in the SGS report attached to the council report that the residential land supply and demand data for the Cygnet Township within the existing regional land use strategy is now very inaccurate. I have a question from Pat Singh on behalf of the Huon Valley Resident and Ratepayers Association. The Huon Valley Residents and Ratepayers Association notes that in closed council there is an item described as General Manager's Employment Matters. Given the recent resignation of the General Manager, it seems most probable that the appointment of a replacement will be one of the topics of discussion. In the past, the appointment of General Managers to the Huon Valley has been less than transparent. Many in the community have noted that the appointees have all had prior relationships with councillors, or in the case of the current GM, the Commissioner, despite the very many outside applicants. So the question, will the appointment of a new Huon Valley Council General Manager be conducted in an open and transparent manner with all relevant details being made available to the public, except of course those personal details that must remain confidential? The answer, recruitment of the General Manager is the most important appointment that a council will undertake. This will be done in conjunction with a recruitment expert following industrially accepted recruitment processes where an element of confidentiality needs to be maintained. Council understands the public interest in this matter and we will be considering release of information from the Council's consideration at tonight's meeting. And the final question is from Bob Hawkins, Petcheys Bay. A few years ago, when there were no councillors and a commissioner was running the HVC, question time became a serious and valuable means of communication between councillors and staff on the one side and the public on the other. Those sessions often ran for 45 minutes, sometimes longer. Since council returned to its conventional form a couple of years ago, these question and answer sessions have been much curtailed. Question, will the chair of the meeting in future allow more than the minimum public question time of 15 minutes so that, for example, on this occasion, residents and ratepayers can follow up on the council's responses published in tonight's agenda to the motions passed at the AGM on March 10? And the answer, the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulation 2015 states that at least 15 minutes of a meeting is made available for questions by members of the public. At the discretion of the chairperson, more time may be allowed if required. This may depend on the size of the agenda, the number of persons indicating they wish to ask a question, and whether the questions being asked have already been addressed in previous questions or reports. That was the final question, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll let you have a glass of water after that.
Thank you.
Okay. General Manager, are there any deputations?
No, Mayor.
Are there any petitions?
No, Mayor.
General reports. General Manager, would you like to speak to your operational report?
Mayor, the reports are all laid out in the attachments. I'm happy to take on any questions if anyone has any, but I don't think I need to highlight anything in particular.
No problems.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to table my activities for February, and I'd just like to say that it was really good to see Dover Seafest back up and running. It was lovely. And I was involved in the cuppa with the councillor down at the Huonville hub, and the GDH monthly feast started in February, and it was superb. So yeah, and I was also involved in helping Mon get some funding for the she shed, so that's exciting. So would any councillor like to table their activities? Table them? Would you like to speak to them, Christine? Yes. Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd particularly like to highlight a couple of things that are happening in the local community, particularly the suicide prevention network that they're trying to set up for Signet. It's obviously been identified as having a higher rate of suicide, and it's been well attended. The exciting thing was that we actually had some of the sports groups come along, which was really nice to see, and I think that was very valuable to have them there. The other one is the Island Project, which is the Wicking Centre, and they're working on how to encourage people to understand about health and how they can take preventative measures for risk of dementia. And we had a presentation at the hub on that, and that was excellent, just to understand those risks that we don't really appreciate actually add to, the possibility of dementia. And when we see people in the community with dementia and the painful, existence that they have and what it's like for carers, it's such an important thing to really try and understand how we can all actually help ourselves. That's what I got out of it. I also, had the privilege of attending a couple of events, particularly the vigil at Burton's Reserve with CTAC, and that was very special. Just having, Jason talk about, the how to care for our community, particularly when it comes to fire, that sort of thing. So that was lovely. Yes, so I feel very privileged to get around to some of these events. Also went down to Dover and volunteered on the to take the people's names because it was actually COVID, and I was actually let off because there were so many volunteers. So that was very exciting to think I wasn't needed. Yes, and I had a cuppa with councillors, and I had a very unusual man who came who wasn't even from the Huon Valley, but anyway, I was there to talk to him, and that was fine. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes of the period 1 to 28th of February 2021 be received and noted? Yep, Councillor Lovell and Councillor Wilson. Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening remarks? No. Do I do that? Pardon? Just put the motion? Okay. All right. I'd like to put the motion forward that Yeah, all in favour? That's all councillors. Thank you. Do I get on there? Okay, got you then. General Manager, would you like to advise on recent workshops, please?
Thank you, Mayor. So we've had a couple of workshops. On March the 2nd, we discussed the Huonville Link Road update. The Manager of Technical Services, or I should say the Acting Director, sorry, provided an update and presentation on the Huonville Link Road and the route options at the Department of State Growth's request. We also discussed priority projects, where a number of projects for inclusion in the upcoming election strategy were I discussed. These feedback from those was collected, and it helped us update the briefs, and they're in tonight's agenda. We also discussed the communication strategy, just to gather any feedback on that. On the 23rd of March 2021, the Director of Corporate Services provided a presentation and discussion about upcoming rates and budget process, and discussion about cash reserves and where we're going from here. This will be subject to a number of other council workshops in the coming months. Thank you, Mayor. Okay,
thank you. Now we're at number 12, councillor questions. Questions taken on notice. There was none. Questions without notice. Do we have any from yes, Councillor Prince.
Through you, Mayor. Since the installation of the solar panels on this building, is the General Manager able to indicate a sort of cost saving to the council from that?
Through you, Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Prince. Not off the top of my head. I do remember seeing the proposals that we received and the quotes on the payback period, and it was around 4.5 years from what it cost us, what our power usage and the generation of the solar power was going to be about a 4.5 year payback period to break even, and then from then on, obviously savings. But I haven't got that data off the top of my head. It's something we could provide at a later date.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions without notice? Nope. So, no notice is a motion?
No, Mayor.
Okay, now we're on to Huon Valley Priority Projects 14.002/21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson, and a seconder. Yes.
Yes.
I'll read it out and then maybe discuss it. It's just a change at the end. Point E, a copy of the priority projects be placed on the council website and made available for inspection at the council's customer service centre. I think we should add, council is to undertake community engagement at consult level to evaluate the support and or concerns for each project. And then I had a point F. The projects identified in the priority projects are not a final list. Other projects may be added as community input is compiled. We could leave that out anyway. Prior to commencing work, the project officer will discuss the order of priority for the project at a council workshop, and the order shall be confirmed at a council meeting.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that? Yes, that's Councillor Campbell.
Any discussion?
Right, is there any discussion around that?
Can I
Yes.
talk to that?
Yes, you may.
I think this is most likely the biggest lump of money that's going to be spent in the Huon for the foreseeable future, if we get it. and I really hope we do. I think there's some really fantastic projects in here. But I also know that the project officer has got a mountain of work to get through, and I think there are projects that are better than others. I also think because it is such a big opportunity, it's really essential to consult the community on this. I don't want the consultation to hold up any of the work. So I can see no reason why these two things can't run in parallel, that the project office can get started on the work based on what we as 9 councillors feel is the priority, but I think we should be getting feedback in from the community as we go along for something as important as this.
Yes, Councillor Wilson.
Do we have a copy of the amendment you're making there, Paul, or are you just reading that?
I sent it to Matthew, but I can read it again if you like, or sorry, I didn't print it. I didn't have time. Do you want me to read it again?
If you could just read that again, it'd be much appreciated.
So, the point is the same, except that it has council is to undertake community engagement at consult level to evaluate the support and or any concerns for each project. And then there's a new point F, that the projects identified in the priority projects are not a final list. Other projects may be added as community input is compiled. Prior to commencing work, the project officer will discuss the order of priority for the projects at a council workshop, and the order shall be confirmed at a council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson.
So is there any other discussion around that? Yes, Councillor Lovell.
Through you, Mayor, to Paul. Just who's deciding the priority in the end, are you saying?
The 9
Is that comes through...
councillors.
So you're not saying that's coming through the consultation?
I think we should gather feedback from the community and then we should decide as a council.
Right.
Yes, Councillor Prince.
I don't disagree with that, Councillor Gibson, but given in particular with the emphasis on the state election side of things, given that is May the 1st, I'm not entirely convinced we'd have time to run a consultation specifically relating to the state election. Different story for the federal election, obviously, but specifically in relation to that, I just don't see that we'd have time to run a consultation to accurately sort of implement any feedback we got in the next 4 weeks. We would.
Yeah, as I said, they're running in parallel. The proposal is to employ the project officer for 5 years. I think that we can get started on the whole project based on what we feel as 9 councillors are the priorities, but I still think that we should be getting the opinion of the community for something as big as this, and I think it can run in parallel and then feed into the equation further down the track.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gibson. Yes, Councillor Newell.
Yeah, look, Paul, I can see your point of view, but I also think that we've done some pretty good work on coming up with this list of priority projects. If we start putting it out to the community now for more priority projects, where's it ever going to end? We've come up with a really good list. We've come up with a plan. Personally, I just think we need to press ahead with what we've come up with now and get on with it. Show people that we're professional. I mean, I think public opinion's fine, but we are the elected members of the public, and I'm sure you've had the public come to you with, proposals, and we've put them all forward and come up with a list. I don't really see what the advantage would be to the actual council or the ratepayer.
I think it is professional to consult the community.
Okay, thank you. Just remember, guys, to come through the chair. That's all right. Yes, Councillor O'May.
Through you, Mayor, I'd just like to make a small comment. For me personally, to change this amendment tonight, I think is a bit hasty, and I would like to have this in print and just really go through the ramifications of this change before I was to put my hand up and vote on it, with respect. Councillor, but I just think at the moment there could be a lot in this that we really mightn't be able to see at present. That could change things or hold things up. So, thank you, Mayor.
Is that a question, Councillor Wilson?
I'm not sure whether it is or not. I suppose where I have a concern at this stage as far as putting on a project officer concerned, I think it's something that we should be moving on as quick as we possibly can. Councillor Prince makes a very good comment. We're a week into a state election and we should be rattling their cages as quick as we possibly can. Right. And effectively I'm for moving ahead on this as quick as we can and see whether we can get something out of the state.
Thank you.
To start with.
Through you, Mayor.
Yeah. Is yours a question? No, it's just, no, you haven't spoken. Sorry, Councillor Campbell.
To the General Manager.
Yeah.
With the priority projects, they're obviously listed in there as 1 to 10. And is it my understanding that they're chosen on merit? Are they chosen in order? How does that actually work out?
Through you, Mayor, they were chosen in order through the workshopping process with councillors.
Okay, yes, I understand that. But so what are the chances that we get all 10 sorry.
We don't know.
Yes.
I mean, we are at the mercy of the funding bodies, you know, whether it be state or federal election, and sometimes they will choose the priority or choose the projects they wish to fund, depending on their focus at the time. As an example, with Franklin Foreshore, we didn't have that as our number one priority, but it was still something that the government decided was a beneficial project for the community and actually gave us some money to fund the start of that. So that we really don't know, but when the election process starts, they may come and discuss some of them with us.
Okay, so that's really hinges on between now and May what we will actually receive.
Yeah, I mean they may not fully fund all of them. They might decide to give a partial contribution. Then I guess we need to decide whether that's actually feasible for us to carry forward into the future. So, yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Campbell. Nope, no worries, Councillor Lovell.
Through you, Mayor, to the General Manager, where did these come out of? I can sort of see that some of them came out of the recreation plan. Could you just tell us where these actually were compiled from?
Through you, Mayor. There are a variety of sources. I guess some of the projects, like the Huonville Activation Project, has been something that's been discussed for many years prior to my time, and relocation of the depot to free up land that is already zoned general business and would make a good site for commercial activity is something that's been it was, I think, originally identified in the 2011 structure plan. So that's one source. Some are from the recreation strategy, like the Huonville to Franklin shared pathway.
So essentially these are actually coming from our communities anyway?
They have come from the community, I guess originally in the first place, through any other consultation. The master planning process that we did with the Huonville Renlar master plan identified that walkway. Yep. And some are ideas that may have been put forward by consultants doing the structure planning process.
Yep. So I guess as my statement to be able to make, I'm along the similar lines as Councillor Newell. I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like we're double going over work that's previously been done, which will add more work on top of what we've got to do. I guess that's, my statement.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Gibson, do you have any closing remarks?
Through you, Mayor, I have a
Yes.
question first to the
Okay.
General Manager. There are a number of projects, are there not, on this list that haven't been, that the public aren't really aware of, like the relocation of the depot that has had no consultation. I think it's a fantastic project, but we haven't had much public discussion on it, and a few others.
Through you, Mayor, that's true of recent times, but that originally did come out of the 2011 structure planning process, which did have some consultation. I know it was some time ago, but originally it did come through that process.
Okay, well, just in closing, I mean, I think that putting this list to the election now is obviously sensible, but there will be no work done on that for obviously by the 1st of May we won't even have a project officer in place. But we're spending quite a lot of money in getting these projects to shovel ready, and I think that's a really important thing to do. That's where you know, we're going to get value for money out of this, any grants we get, and makes it much more likely. But before spending that sort of money and investing the sort of money that that might come from the federal government election, I think that we should consult with the community in some form.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gibson. So I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Is that correct? Oh, sorry, yeah, for the amended. Thank you. So I'll put forward the amended motion. Is that right? No, for...
You put the
Yep.
amended motion for a vote?
Yep, okay. I'll put the... Yep. All in favour for the amended motion. That's Councillor Gibson and Councillor Campbell. And against is Councillor O'May, Councillor Wilson, Councillor Lovell, Councillor Prince, Councillor Newell, and the Mayor, Acting Mayor. And the motion's been lost. The amended motion has been lost. So we go back now to the original. Yep.
Through you, Mayor, could I move the recommendation, please?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, need a seconder? Councillor Prince? All in favour? Oh, would you like to speak on that, Councillor Wilson?
Yes, look, I don't have any issues with it at all. I think it's important that we get moving on this as quick as we possibly can. I don't have any problems where you're coming from, Councillor Gibson, but I think we need to move as quick as we can. There was a snap state election. Who's to say there's not going to be a snap federal election the way they're carrying on over there? So, yeah, I'm saying we need to get this shovel ready, and I think these projects are a start, and we have involved the community quite a bit. Don't disagree with you, but as I said.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Councillor Wilson, would you like to close?
No, thank you, Mayor. I think I've said enough.
All right, so I put the motion. Those in favour, raise your hand. That's all, councillors. That's been carried. Okay. Motion carried at Annual General Meeting 2020 held March 2021, New Signet Street. It's 14.003-21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Lovell? And a seconder? Councillor Campbell? Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening remarks?
No, Mayor, I'm happy with the recommendations on this one. Thank you.
Okay, I will now open it up to discussion. Are there any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
It's a very minor thing, but it says no action is to be taken on the motion, whereas that's not in fact the case. We are taking action on the motion. And I wondered whether we should just insert the word no new action, because we already were doing this, and it's basically what's been requested. But it just feels like a good suggestion from the community at the AGM to just say no action taken when we are taking action is maybe not
Good point.
the right way to go.
Good point.
Okay, if the mover and seconder agree,
Yes, I'm happy with that, Mayor.
yes? Okay, so we can have that. So, do you have any closing remarks, Councillor Lovell? So I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present and the motion is carried. Motion carried at Annual General Meeting 2020 held March 2021. Settlement Planning 15.009-21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Campbell. And a seconder? Councillor Lovell. Councillor Campbell, do you have any opening remarks?
Thank you, Mayor. I think the recommendation outlines very well what was suggested at the AGM. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth providing a letter of thanks to the people who actually put forward motions because they go to a lot of trouble, and I think it's just a sign of courtesy that we acknowledge, because sometimes paperwork is actually quite, it doesn't really reflect, I think, what we'd like to reflect to the community, and I just think it's worth sending a letter of thanks and outlining the recommendation, if that would be acceptable.
So if the mover and seconder are okay with that, is that correct? Okay, we can just, yep, if everyone's comfortable, we can just commit to that. Okay. All right, Councillor Campbell, have you got any closing?
No, thank you very much for considering that. Appreciate it.
Okay. If, so I'll put the motion that those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Campbell, for that. Land Strategy Implementation 15.010-21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Gibson, and a seconder? Councillor O'May. Councillor Gibson, do you have any opening remarks?
I'm just sorry, I just lost where I was. I did have. Sorry, this
right.
is 15, this is the settlement planning, is that the?
It's for the Land Strategy Implementation, that's right. Yeah.
Land strategy implementation.
On the right, Audrey? Yeah.
Oh, yes. No, actually, I have no comment on that, sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was, that's okay,
I got
Councillor
myself
Gibson.
confused.
That's fine. I will now open it up, the floor up for questions. Yeah? Is that right? Yeah. No others? Okay, I would, oh, sorry, Mark, I didn't see that. So, Councillor O'May?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that this process was very rewarding for me, and I think all the councillors that participated in the drive around and inspection of most of these sites were much wiser for the fact for doing so. I know you were on the team there, and I believe had a very good, thorough inspection. And I believe that this strategy has been chosen well, and yeah, I believe this council has done a very good job, in my view, of this.
Thank you, Councillor O'May. I would just like to say that I've spoken to the volunteers at the Huon FM when I go and do my show of a Tuesday, and they have been stressed, and now they are so appreciative. They feel like they'll be able to move forward with their improvements and apply for grants and so forth. So, yeah, they were very happy. Okay. Yeah, any other discussion? Nope. Councillor Gibson, have you got any closing remarks?
No, I think this, as Mark said, this has been very well workshopped and, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Financial report 16.003-21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Wilson, and a seconder, Councillor Lovell. Councillor Wilson, do you have any opening remarks?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, just again, I'd like to thank the Director and his staff for these reports they put together are extremely good each month. Yeah, our year-to-date financial performance is favourable to budget, which is excellent. We're basically at this stage forecasting around about a 2 million surplus, I take it, Director, which is due effectively to the 1.7 million additional capital grants to be received. Is that correct? Thank you, and I think it's quite honestly, if you go through and have a good look at this financial report, it's showing us a reasonable sort of figures, which is what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Director.
Thank you. Yep, so I'll now open the discussion to the floor. So is there any other comments? Yes, Councillor Campbell.
Through you, Mayor, to the Director. If I could ask you, Director, just a question on page 3 of 13. Are you able to just highlight the first 3 items under capital grants, the Local Roads Community Infrastructure Program, what that applies to, the vulnerable road users and the levelling in the playing field? I'm not sure which playing field has been levelled, but just I've been asked those questions, so I just would like to ask you the question.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'm not sure how much detail I can provide at the minute, but the 664K from the Local Roads LRCI program, that comprises probably 10 or a dozen different smaller type projects. And I don't have the full details of those here with me at the moment, so I'm sorry about that, but I can provide that.
Thank you.
Tomorrow, if you'd happy to do that.
Yes, I am.
The vulnerable road users and levelling the playing field. I'm not sure if my Port Huon. Okay.
Can you explain what the vulnerable road user is? Thank you, Director.
Through you, Acting Mayor. The Vulnerable Road User is a grant application program run through the Department of State Growth. They also run that in conjunction with the Black Spot funding. So that's where we have opportunities to address any areas that we may see as improvements for those who are cyclists or pedestrians, and improve the facilities within the valley to accommodate specifically what's termed a vulnerable road user. So usually we use it for improved footpaths, which is what happened down at Port Huon with that money.
Thank you, Director.
And Councillor Campbell, levelling the playing fields is very similar. So that's funding, that's the balance of the remaining funding for the Huonville club rooms upgrade for the cricket and football club. So that's the final payment there.
Thank you, Director.
Yes, Councillor Gibson.
Through you, Mayor, I just had a question, probably for the General Manager, I'm not sure. On the financial report, we've got 85,000 assigned to the Port Huon Sports Centre, and then a further 100,000 on page 8, and another further 39,375. And then in the priority project estimate of 1.5 million, which is sort of just shy of $2 million to be spent on the Port's Huon Sports Centre. I just wondered whether an assessment had been done of the long-term viability of the Port Huon pool in comparison, say, to building a new facility at Huonville's sport precinct.
Thank you, Mayor. I might ask the Director of Community Services to respond, because I think there might be a number of different project allocations that you've picked up on.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson, there is an action within the Huon Valley Recreation Plan which actually, I can't tell you word for word what it says, but it does talk about a review of the direction, service delivery of all sporting centres, including the pool. So we are currently developing a brief to complete that action, which will take into consideration future use, future opportunities at all sports centres, not just Port Huon, and include looking at what our surrounding other services are that are being provided similar to ours. So making sure that we're not obviously competing, but complementing other activities that are happening, other indoor pools as well as sporting centres. The projects that you've referred to there in the CWIP are in relation to the car park and entrance, so the outdoor work. Within the priority project, that is also included in that priority project list, so it's redevelopment inside and outside. The first step of that would be to obviously identify the exact work that would be undertaken with that, which will be helped through this report that we're starting to commission. And hopefully we'll be coming to a workshop over the next few months. I can't give a timeline just yet. Okay.
Thank you. My question was more about the infrastructure itself, and I mean, I'm a builder, so this very often you find that building from scratch a new facility is vastly more economical, and you don't have the ongoing maintenance. And I'm just want to be sure that that assessment is being done of the current infrastructure, so that we're not investing a lot of money into something that's sort of not sound.
Thank you. Do we?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So any asset renewal is done through an inspection process. So I guess it's hard to determine whether a whole new site needs to be built, because I guess there's a lot involved in that, which would need a bit of strategic planning and community consultation. Whether to dispose of an asset and build a whole new facility is actually quite a big undertaking. So I understand what you're saying about sometimes it's better to build new, but we've got a facility. It's up and running. It's providing a service to the community. To shut that down would be an asset write-down anyway for us, and we'd have to dispose of that asset and may have losses involved in that, whilst a whole new capital build is undertaken. So it's probably a lot more planning and strategic planning to be done to determine whether that is the best option or not.
Yeah, I guess that was the question, is that strategic planning being done?
There, as the Director said,
Well,
there is going to be a review done on the services that are provided from the Port Huon Sports Centre, but that's not just in what we actually operate out of there, but the service of the actual facility. What level of service is that providing? Is it functioning well? Is it not functioning well? Will it cost a lot to upgrade or not? So that they are undertaking that review.
And that will include the infrastructure itself. And
yes,
yeah,
that's right.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Yes, Councillor O'May.
I'd just like to acknowledge Councillor Gibson's statement, and I believe that he does have some merit there in some aspects, most definitely.
Thank you. I would just like to say that if you remember in the last council paper or last council meeting, and we were talking about the drainage in Port Huon, if you looked at the blocks, there's 1,500 blocks that can be used or bought or developed in Port Huon. So that's quite a lot of people that would be brought into the community. So that's just another level of thinking as well. But there was 1,500 blocks in that area that I confirmed with infrastructure this week. So, yeah. Okay, so Councillor Wilson, do you have any closing remarks?
No, thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's just that we're having some good debate on financial issues, and I think that's a great thing. That's really what we should be doing. So I thank fellow councillors for the discussion on the matter.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay, motion carried at Annual General Meeting 2020, held March 21. Financial Management Strategy 16.004/21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor O'May and Councillor Newell. Councillor O'May, do you have any opening remarks?
No, Mayor.
Thank you. I will now open it up to the floor. Anyone with a comment?
I was actually going to do an amended motion. Sorry, can I foreshadow it? I think I sent it to you, Matthew.
That's on item 17.
Is that, did you get? Later one, is it? Oh, good, thanks.
Okay, so that's okay. All right, so no other discussion? Or do we wait? No? Okay, no other discussion? Okay. Yeah, got any closing? No? Okay, so I'll put the motion. Those
No, thank you, Mayor.
in favour? Those in favour? That's all councillors present in the room, and the motion is carried. I now advise that the council is acting as a planning authority at 7:11. Okay, so I'll just go straight on to that one. Yep. City of Hobart proposed amendment to the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy 2010 to 2035. That is 17.006/21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Newell, do I have someone? Councillor Wilson? Councillor Newell, do you have any opening remarks? I'll open that up to the floor for discussion. Okay, do you have any closing? No? Okay, so I'll put the motion, and those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. So the motion is carried. Are you right? Yeah, okay. Amendment to the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy 2010 to 2035. It's 17.007/21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson. A seconder? Councillor O'May.
Mayor,
And
I'd like to do an amended motion. Thank you.
is that right? Yep. You'd like to put that forward?
Thank you.
Yep. You have a seconder?
I don't know what the motion is.
Oh, on the
Yep.
Tasmanian land,
That-
that one.
Yep. So I asked for the seconder.
The-
Yeah, and then. Yep. Yep.
So Councillor Gibson has moved the motion.
Yep.
Is there a seconder?
Yes, it was Councillor O'May.
Should we not talk to the motion?
So will you get an opportunity to talk to the motion?
Yep.
I've been a supporter of densifying towns and not sprawling out into the countryside for some time. I think it's a good model. It is good for defending towns against fire. It's good for community. It's good for being economical on our infrastructure. I guess my only concern, and I raised this in Q&A, was regarding whether it's all the land in Cygnet that should be, the available land in Cygnet should be available for residential, or whether it should just be the, I think it's called future urban growth land. So I guess I have a question through you, Chair, to the Minister. Minister? To you, Dick.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson, and through you, Mayor. Yes, so the proposed amendment is really just asking that. Sorry, I'll take a step back. When you put through a planning scheme amendment, a rezoning application, that obviously goes through council to be approved first, and then after that goes to the TPC for their assessment, the Tasmanian Planning Commission. Now, they're required under a clause of LUPA, under legislation, that any amendment must be, as far as practicable, consistent with the regional land use strategy. So the issue we have is once it gets to that point, the regional land use strategy, which was prepared back in, 13 years ago, has data that is vastly out of date now, particularly in Cygnet, and that's obviously clearly apparent in that SGS report. So that report just says, oh look, there should be plenty of land in Cygnet to accommodate the growth of Cygnet. Now clearly that's been vastly exceeded many years ago. So what this request actually is that if one of those applications comes forward, that current data on the residential supply and demand situation in the township of Cygnet can be considered rather than relying on the out-of-date data. It doesn't mean that it's just, it's through and it's approved. It just means that the current data, if it's deemed to be suitable and professionally prepared, can be considered in that application. Otherwise, it just comes back with a no, sorry, this is not consistent with the regional land use strategy. Hopefully that clarifies. Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to open up to the floor.
I have an amendment to the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead. Do we have to have a seconder for that? Just say what the amendment is first. Yep, okay. Go ahead.
It's basically the same as outlined in the recommendation. I just would like, do you want me to read the whole lot or just the amendment?
Just the...
Probably want to go through what the amendment actually is so councillors can understand.
Sure, okay. So the amendment I'm putting forward is in B. Council requests the Minister for Planning to amend the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy 2010 to 2035 by adding to Table 3 of the strategy as a footnote the following wording. For the Cygnet Township, the growth strategy does not preclude growth through rezoning of existing urban land within the established boundaries, and I've included here excluding land zone recreation if supported by residential land supply and demand data analysis from a suitably qualified person. And the rest of the motion is, or the recommendation is the same.
Okay, so I now need a seconder. Yep, Councillor Prince.
If I can just give a background to that.
Yep.
In the Southern Tasmania Regional Land Use Strategy, page 30, under SD8, it states, it's a heading, supporting strong and healthy communities. And it states, creating opportunities to improve the long-term health of the community through better urban design, as well as providing equal opportunity to access high-quality open spaces and recreational benefits are also important. Cygnet has very little recreation land available to provide for the rapid expansion of Cygnet, and highlights a need to exclude land zone recreation from the Southern Tasmanian Land Use Strategy 2011 to 2025. The land next to the oval used by the Riding Club is zone residential and is within the urban growth boundary. With an expected high demand for residential land in Cygnet, there will be a need to ensure that there is sufficient recreation land for sporting clubs, etc., to meet that demand. The reason for excluding recreation land from the urban growth boundaries is important as the population increases beyond what has been previously forecast. In the SGS report, it has been recognised that strong population has been evident in Cygnet over the past decade. Between 2010 and 2019, the average annual growth rate was 1.7% per annum. This has increased to 2.4% over the past 5 years and 2.9% in the past 3 years. As a result, the figure also reveals that the population forecast for Cygnet in 2021, using the Treasury growth rates for the Huon Valley, has already been met by 2019, even under the high scenario. There is concern in the Cygnet community about recreational land. There is very little, and that is why I've included the recreation land to be actually excluded in this situation, so that we ensure that when this new zoning goes through, or this particular development, that we actually are ensured of, given what it says in the land use strategy, that we need to support strong and healthy communities. And I think that's going to be really important in Cygnet and any other township that grows as rapidly. So that's the reason I'm putting it forward. Thank
Okay.
you.
Do we have any other discussion on that? Yes, Councillor Newell.
Yeah, I think, with all due respect, Councillor Campbell, I think we've got a lot of recreational areas in Cygnet. You've got a nice golf course, you've got a tennis club, you've got a bowls club, you've got the football oval precinct. You've got a lot of recreational land, deep bay areas for walks. I don't think you can limit people's ability to buy blocks of land and expand, and Cygnet can't be left as just a retreat for people to retire to, which I'm hearing a lot down there, that people don't want it to change. The fact is, you've got another generation coming through that are going to want to buy a little block of land and build a house and live in the community that they've been brought up in. And I think we've got to understand that Cygnet's going to expand, it's going to change, and it's going to get a lot bigger with the next generation now coming through and wanting to stay in their hometown.
Thank you, Councillor Newell. Yes, Councillor O'May.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor. Question to Councillor Campbell, and a statement. I totally agree with you on the football ground site. Great call, and if anything, it should be expanded. But do you have any other ground that you have earmarked under this proposal? Is there anywhere specific? I'm just picturing Cygnet in my mind. I don't believe there's going to be any development beside the river, because I believe it's probably a floodplain anyway and would be able to be undeveloped, and it's used for grazing and farmland now, which gives Cygnet a good rural feel down there. But I'm just questioning whether there's any other areas that you believe that should be earmarked for this recreational proposal, or do you have any ideas in mind?
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you for the question, Councillor May. Look, I'm just really concerned more about ensuring that there is going to be sufficient recreation land. It's actually, with respect, Councillor Newell, it's actually not about not wanting, I mean, obviously we're going to have a lot of development down there, but I think, given that, the land strategy has already highlighted that we need to support strong and healthy communities, I think that's one of the big issues, that we need to make sure that we have enough land for, sporting clubs, any form of recreation. And so that's all I'm thinking of. It's not really to prevent any, developments going ahead, but I think we actually need to factor in to any development some sort of recreation. And that's really just my concern. It's no more than that. So that was why I was proposing it. But thank you for the question.
Okay. Yes, Councillor. Yes.
Through you, Chair.
Yep.
I I mean, I think that as population in a town goes up, it's almost more important to maintain your recreational land. But I had a question actually through you, Mayor, back to the Director. The wording of this is that it's the growth strategy that does not preclude this. So I guess I'm looking for advice there as to whether that's how that affects recreational land.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gibson, and through you, Mayor. Yeah, look, I think I can probably talk to it a little bit, which might provide some clarity. As per the first point I made, the amendment is really just around being able to utilise the current data. The matters that you've raised, Councillor Campbell, are certainly relevant, but don't forget that any rezoning application, whether it was for residential land or recreation land or industrial land, comes to council first. So it won't get to this process if you guys want to stop it before it gets there, because you have concerns around those issues. Those issues are also must be answered in any rezoning application. So the points that you even raised regarding the regional land use strategy, making points around having to provide for healthy communities, they are some of the clauses that need to be assessed in order to get it past the TPC. So there are further protections there in that regard as well. So in that regards, again, just going back to my original answer to Councillor Gibson, the request is simply to say that if there is an application that we're seeking permission, that we should be able to consider current and accurate data rather than have to rely on the out-of-date, inaccurate data that's currently within the strategy. I think as a further officer comment, I would have concern as to if that amended clause would even get approved. We would likely have to have a professional report demonstrating what you are saying about recreational zoned land to specifically exclude it from ever being considered for a rezoning application. I certainly don't have that data currently, so I am reasonably confident that we would be pushed to provide some sort of professional report that justified the specific exclusion of recreation land. And yeah, I certainly don't have that information to be able to present as part of that. But like I said, there's certainly many other checks and balances along the way before it would even get to that process. First one being it has to be approved by council before it's even provided to the TPC for their assessment.
Thank you, Director.
Okay, so there's no other comments? Question? You've already spoken on a statement.
Yes, Mayor, question to Councillor Campbell again. After our Director's summary of the process there, do we really warrant to have to go through with the extra amendment? Does it satisfy you, the Director's stipulation of what the process is? Do we really need to change it, is what I'm trying to say.
Look, on balance, probably not. I'm just thinking that we haven't got, as the Director pointed out, we haven't got accurate data yet. And so we're trying to think ahead, for, what's, I mean, we haven't really got anything at the moment that really forecasts. And so I'm sort of trying to look ahead and think, well, if I've got a whole lot of people that I see coming into town, and it's going to be an important thing to have recreation land. It was really just really asking the question, and I think the Director has answered that for me. No, we probably don't need to.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, so are you withdrawing your motion, amendment?
I will withdraw it, thank you.
Okay, all right, okay. Yep. So, no more discussion. So I'll ask Councillor Gibson. Yeah, isn't it? He's closing.
Sorry, Councillor Gibson was the original mover.
Yes.
So if there was any discussion on that original motion.
Ah, okay, I thought we'd done that. Okay, is there any discussion on the original motion? No. Okay. Do you have a closing statement?
I think we've discussed it fairly comprehensively.
Okay, well, we'll take the vote. I put the motion. Those in favour, raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. The council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at... Thank you. Okay. Target Tasmania 2021 18.002/21. Do I have a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Prince. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lovell. Councillor Prince, do you have any opening remarks?
No, Target is awesome fun and glad that we can be closing the roads to let it happen.
Yep, well done, thank you. Okay, I'll put the discussion to the floor. Do we have any? Yes, Councillor Lovell?
I'd just like to say that I'm glad to see Targa come back this year. So just another event to draw people to the valley and to lighten the load of COVID, I guess, in a sense. give us something to be excited about. So, yeah, good to see events happening.
Yep. Yes, Councillor Gibson?
Through you, Mayor. I guess just had a question about the methodology about assessing any damage from the Targa, and where council stands as far as the costs of that.
Yep, no worries. I'll go through the General Manager maybe to your infrastructure. Acting?
Mayor, thank you. I could probably answer that. We do an assessment of those roads. We do a check. We do it as part of our routine inspections. So there is a before and after assessment done, and any damage that's discovered, there's an agreement that they will repair that damage, and it has happened in the past where some has been identified and no questions asked, they have actually carried out those repairs.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is it yes, Councillor O'May?
Yes, Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. I believe that along the same lines as the other councillors, that I think that this event is great for the valley, and if anything for our roads, it brings recognition and publicity to the state of our roads and to the state of repair of our roads, highlighted with free publicity to the powers that be in state parliament, that we potentially could do with some more funding down here to improve our roads. So I think it's a great event for the valley.
Thank you very much. So is there any other comments? No? Councillor Prince, do you have any closing remarks? No worries. So I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay, Huon Valley Health and Wellbeing Committee membership, 19.003/21. Do I have a councillor to move this motion? Yes, Councillor Lovell, and a seconder, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Lovell, do you have any opening remarks?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say congratulations to Donna Gallagher of the Huon Community Health Centre, Karen van der Veen, and we've got a representative from Rural Alive and Well, Lucy Whitehead, Hermione Green, and a representative from the Link Youth Health Services. So we now actually have a full committee, which we haven't had for a while, which is really good. So 12 members I think we've got. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll open it up for discussion. Anyone else on the floor like to? No? Okay. Councillor Lovell, have you got any closing statements?
And I forgot to mention that we've got Braden Carver as a proxy for Alison Bly from Maxima.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll put the motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. Okay, so it is time again to advise that council is about to go into closed. I'd like to wish you all a lovely Easter, and please stay safe on the roads. Thank you.